Amara Linton had known humiliation before, but never quite like this. She stood at the edge of the grand ballroom, her fingers tightening around the small coral-colored clutch she had borrowed from a coworker. The annual Hawthorne Charity Gala glittered like a world built for everyone, but her white marble floors, polished to a mirror sheen, chandeliers dripping with crystals, waiters gliding like shadows, carrying trays of champagne and tiny gold-leaf desserts she couldn't even pronounce. She hadn't wanted to come. She told herself she didn't belong here anymore. Not after Jonathan replaced her so effortlessly with a woman whose entire personality seemed handcrafted for the wealthy elite. But Amara wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here because her childhood friend, Mila, insisted she attend just to show them you're not dead. Mila had joked, and maybe part of Amara wanted exactly that, to be seen, to exist again. But when she arrived at the registration table, her heart sank. Her name tag wasn't placed with the others. The woman handling the list gave her a quick once over her simple navy dress, her soft curls pinned with nothing but practicality, and her expression flickered with something between pity and judgment. "Oh, you," the woman muttered, flipping pages without urgency. "Yes, you have a seat, table 26. The number didn't mean anything to Amara at first, but when she entered the ballroom and saw where table 26 was, her stomach tightened. It wasn't just in the corner. It wasn't just near the kitchen door. It was practically behind a pillar, squeezed between the emergency exit and a stack of spare folding chairs. Her place card alone looked dented, as if someone had pressed it down with unnecessary force. They hadn't even bothered to put a centerpiece. The message was clear: you don't matter. A whisper caught her ear. They really put her there? She didn't have to look to know who said it. Vanessa Hartley. Jonathan's new fiancée, all glittering champagne satin and perfect waves, stood a few tables away, with a cluster of wealthy donors. She wasn't trying to whisper. She wanted Amara to hear. Jonathan stood beside her, adjusting his cufflinks, avoiding Amara's gaze, like she was something fragile he had grown tired of breaking. "Well," Vanessa continued sweetly, "everyone deserves a seat, even her." The group chuckled, soft and venomous. Heat crept up Amara's neck. She forced herself to breathe slowly, willing her heart not to race. She had survived worse. She had survived Jonathan walking away from their 5-year relationship because Vanessa had better connections. She had survived losing her job at the Hawthorne Foundation the following month because Vanessa suddenly needed Amara's position. She had survived being erased. She could survive a terrible seat. Amara sat, smoothing her dress and ignoring the burn in her chest. She reminded herself she didn't come for Jonathan. She didn't come for the people who had celebrated her downfall. She came because she wanted closure. But closure seemed far away when every glance at her table came with a smirk. Mila arrived late, slipping into the ballroom with the energy of someone who refused to follow rules she found pointless. Her peach jumpsuit shimmered under the lights, and her hair dyed a bold rust red was swept into a messy bun that somehow looked intentional. "Why are you sitting here?" Mila whispered sharply. "This is where they put extra chairs for caterers on break." "Apparently it's my official seat," Amara murmured. Mila stared at her, then at the table, then back at her. "They're mocking you." "It doesn't matter." "It does," Mila snapped. Then her expression softened. "You don't deserve this, Amara, not from them." Amara smiled sadly. I'll live. Mila opened her mouth to argue when a hush rolled through the ballroom. Conversations faded. The orchestra's soft music quieted. Heads turned toward the entrance. A man stood beneath the archway, tall, dark-haired, exuding a presence that made space bend around him. His suit was a deep charcoal black, tailored to absolute perfection. His expression was unreadable yet magnetic, and even from across the room, Amara felt the shift in energy. People straightened their posture, some whispered, others outright stared. Leon Volter, billionaire investor, tech magnate, known in the business world as the Horizon King, because everything he touched expanded and soared. He wasn't someone Amara had expected to see, and certainly not someone who would be interested in noticing her. But he did. His gaze moved through the room, scanning faces with sharp precision until it locked onto hers. Amara blinked. It wasn't possible. They had met only once, briefly, months ago at a community education event she helped organize. She had been collecting attendance forms and nearly spilled punch on him. He had steadied her elbow, asked her a single thoughtful question about the program, and then disappeared back into his world. People like him didn't remember people like her. Yet he began walking toward her, not toward Jonathan, not toward Vanessa, not toward the cluster of billionaires near the front, toward the forgotten corner table. Mila gasped, but Amara couldn't move. She felt glued to her chair, her breath suspended somewhere between her lungs and hope she refused to acknowledge. Leon stopped right beside her table, hands casually in his pockets. His expression softened slightly, just enough to notice if one was close. Amara Linton, he said, and his voice was low, smooth, carrying weight without trying. I was hoping you'd be here. Mila kicked Amara's foot under the table, hard. Amara managed to stand, her heart beating unevenly. Mr. Volter, I wasn't expecting. Leon, he corrected. I told you to call me that. Vanessa's sharp voice cut across the room. Leon, you're here. We saved you a front row seat. Leon didn't even glance her way. He extended his hand to Amara. Would you walk with me? The ballroom watched like a collective held breath. Amara hesitated only for a heartbeat before placing her hand in his. His fingers were warm, steady, grounding, felt like something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Sincerity. Leon guided her away from the corner table, away from the whispers, past the stunned donors, and straight toward the center of the room. He stopped when they reached the aisle between the two main rows of tables, the exact space where everyone could see them. Then, without breaking eye contact, he slid his hand down her arm and laced his fingers with hers. Gasps echoed, scattered and sharp. Jonathan went pale. Vanessa's smile cracked into something brittle. Leon's voice carried, calm yet unmistakably firm. No one should ever seat you in a corner. And with that, he lifted her hand to his side, holding it as though it belonged there, as though she belonged anywhere he was. Amara didn't know whether to breathe or run. The ballroom felt too bright, too silent, too unbearably focused on her. She had never felt so exposed yet for the first time, not in the way that wounded her. Leon's presence shielded her, not by force but by the sheer gravity of someone who never needed to prove anything. People rearranged themselves without being asked. Conversations faltered, eyes widened. Even the orchestra seemed to find a more elegant rhythm, as if adjusting to match him. Why are you doing this? Amara whispered, leaning slightly toward him so only he could hear. He turned his head, his expression unreadably sincere. Because I remember you. Her breath caught. We only spoke for a minute. Long enough, he said softly. Long enough to know you deserved better than what this room offered you. Her eyes stung unexpectedly. Without meaning to, she glanced toward Jonathan and Vanessa. Vanessa looked like she'd bitten into something sour. Jonathan looked as if he'd just realized gravity had stopped working. Leon followed her gaze. Old ghosts? He asked. Mara tried to smile. Something like that. Leon's fingers gently tightened around hers. You don't need to fear ghosts when you're living in the present. Before she could respond, Vanessa approached, her heels striking the marble with sharp purpose. Her smile was tight enough to crack. Leon, we didn't know you and Mara were close. We're getting there, he replied, unbothered. Vanessa blinked rapidly. Well, Jonathan insisted we give her a seat. Be charitable, you know? Leon raised an eyebrow. Is that what you call charity? Hiding someone behind a pillar? Jonathan stepped forward. Leon, let's not make a scene. You already did, Leon said simply. Silence swallowed the space around them. Jonathan opened his mouth, closed it again, then took Vanessa's arm and retreated, humiliated in the very room he once commanded. Leon exhaled slowly. Mara, he said, turning fully toward her, do you trust me? The question startled her. I think so. Good. His voice softened. Then stay close. He guided her to the front, not to a random spot, not to a spare seat, to the main table, the one reserved for the most influential guests. A server rushed over. Mr. Volter, we weren't informed. She's with me, Leon said. Arrange space. Chairs shifted, place cards moved. Without hesitation, they made room for her. Mara sat beside Leon, her pulse still wavering between disbelief and something warmer, something terrifyingly hopeful. For the first time all evening, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. She felt chosen. As the gala resumed, Mara realized something quietly monumental. The worst seat in the room had led her straight to the place she was always meant to stand. And this time, she wasn't standing alone.